I can already hear the hate comments. Welcome, God of War fans. My name is Shayne Static, and today we are looking into God of War in Christianity. So we're literally taking a look at will Christianity be in the God of War series. So, quick disclaimer before we begin. I am not hating on Christianity. I am not bashing it whatsoever. This is just a theory video about what we might see if God of War eventually gets to Christianity. And from what I have heard, it is part of the God of War universe. So let's take a look. So, will Christianity be in God of War? Will Kratos fight Jesus Christ? And what kind of bosses, weapons, what kind of story are we going to be looking at? We're going to take a look at all of this today. So let's get going. So let's get a look at a confirmation by Cory Barlog when he was at GDC. So he actually explains that all the mythologies in the world and where they kind of interact with each other. So take a look at this clip right here.
Was the idea that all the mythologies of the world are kind of like this Hubble telescope image. They are like galaxies individually spread out throughout a complete universe. And the world is the universe. And all the mythologies are sort of origin stories of various cultures throughout the world, beginning at the beginning of time and stretching all the way out. So at any given time, all the mythologies exist together concurrently, and they are simply separated by geography. So it's important because some people had the conception that, hey, Kratos at the end of God of War 3 destroyed the world. Well, he destroyed what they believed the world was in Greece, which was their world. Everybody believed their world was the only world. In fact, we still believe that today.
We are literally taking a look at a post that John Ford has made a video about that he actually found on Twitter, confirming from Cory Barlog himself that Christianity is a part of the God of War franchise. Take a look at this right here. And actually, John Ford does follow me on Twitter, and that's pretty freaking cool. Anyway, this is an actual confirmation that the director and friggin' genius behind the God of War series is saying that Christianity is in the God of War universe. So, this is actually kind of like a hint. So thank you, John, for finding that. You're friggin' awesome YouTuber. If you haven't seen John Ford, go check him out. He's fantastic. And also from one of my favorite God of War YouTubers as well, besides John Ford, is Captain Kuba. So Captain Kuba has found a lot of Christian influence in the original God of War. So back then, I'm pretty sure the original idea was at the end of God of War, at the end of the God of War series, all the mythologies would come together, and then I think that Christianity would take over and kill all the gods or something like that. I'm not entirely sure, but there is a lot of Christian diagrams and monuments and little scriptures that are confirmed by Captain Kuba right here that it does belong in the universe. It has been mentioned ever since the beginning. So with taking all of this into consideration, we can actually may see Christianity come into the God of War universe, actually play into Christian mythology. So what can we expect if or when we do get to Christian mythology? What can we expect from bosses, weapons, enemies, all this stuff? Let's check out what I think. So let's start with bosses and characters. So obviously, Jesus is probably going to make an appearance, but he is not my first pick when I'm thinking about bosses or potential characters to interact with. I probably think Jesus will probably be saved more toward the end or something like that, because he is a pacifist, all this. So he might be a side character, not entirely sure. But one group is really gotten me excited if we do get to mythology, and that is the archangels. So who are the archangels? So the archangels are basically a very high ranking angel in Christian lore. So they are basically the right hand, left hand, whatever it might be of God. So who are a couple of these angels and what's a little bit about them? So the first one that I wanted to discuss is Michael. So Michael is a defender basically against the devil. He is like the right hand of God. He is the one that is actually going to take on the dragon, or aka Satan, during Armageddon. So that's like the last battle of like God versus the devil kind of a thing when the armies match up. So that isn't his only role. He is actually a guiding soul. He's like a guiding angel. You can see this during one of the stories of Abraham, when he asked God or his angels to take him around the world, show him the rest of the world before he died. And Michael actually guided him around the world to show him like every corner of it, so when he died, he would die happy. So pretty cool. Will Michael be a boss? Will he be a guiding spirit? Kind of like Freya is to this one right now. Not so sure, but you never know. So the next archangel I would kind of want to talk about is Gabriel. So Gabriel is basically the messenger of God. He is like God's voice. He's kind of like Hermes, kind of like in Greek mythology. So he is probably one of the most famous archangels, and he's actually the angel that announces the birth of Jesus. He is also the patron saint of messengers, and he actually helps with births and pregnancies of people in Christian lore. And he also promotes people to actually follow their passions, which is actually pretty cool. So if you have a passion for, I don't know, back in the day, boat building or whatever it might be, he actually promotes you to go do this. So pretty cool. So will Gabriel be a boss or a character that will be in there? Maybe. But since he is like one of the most famous archangels, archangels going to be in Christian mythology and lore, makes a lot of sense for him to be in there. Yeah? So the last archangel I kind of want to talk about is called Metatron. I know, he sounds like a transformer, but he is actually a archangel in Christian lore. So Metatron was actually one of two archangels that actually was originally human. So he wasn't an angelic being from the start, kind of like Michael and Gabriel. Many others, I don't know many off the top of my head, but Metatron actually was the human that was known as Enoch. He actually had his own book in the Bible before it was taken out, which is probably my favorite book in the Bible by far because it's just fantastic. So when Enoch ascended to heaven and God really, really liked him, he made him into the archangel Metatron. So he is basically the scribe or the all-knowing angel of Christian lore. He literally writes down everything that happens in heaven and on earth, and that's got to be a lot of stuff. So he knows basically everything that's going on. He's actually held to such a high standard that he actually has a throne next to God. So he's basically considered second only to God. So he's a pretty powerful dude. So will Metatron be in God of War? I say probably, but you never know. Of course, if we ever get to Christian mythology, which I'm perfectly okay with. So the next set of bosses or characters, or whatever there might gonna be, is the Watchers. I really want to see these guys. So the Watchers are angels sent down from heaven to watch over humans in the Book of Enoch. What happened was, basically the Watchers really liked human women. They did. You know what happened afterward? They gave birth to a race of giants, or like superhumans, who are called the Nephilim. So basically, they are a race of giants or superhumans, kind of like similar to the ones in Norse mythology. But there's a little bit of contradiction in this as well. Some say the Watchers were demons that polluted the bloodline of humans. So this could go either way. Were they angels sent from heaven or demons sent from hell? Not entirely sure, but it would be really cool to actually see what Santa Monica does with this. So the last set of characters or bosses that might be in the God of War series from Christian mythology that I want to talk about before we get into weapons are demons. This is probably going to be more than likely our actual big bosses that we come up against, but you never know, especially since with God of War in Norse mythology, we're taking on the Aesir and kind of being on the giant sides, which when looking at actual mythology, we would be on the side of the Aesir. You see what I'm putting down? Yeah, okay. So, demons. Who might we see? One of them that I think we will see is Baal. So Baal wasn't always a demon. He was actually a fertility deity by the Canaanites. So he was kind of like a high god, kind of like Zeus and Odin were to their pantheons. But in Christianity, he is a demon. He is one of the main lieutenants of Lucifer, and he can be seen as a human, a cat, a toad, or a variation of all three. Kind of a weird looking dude. And he is actually quite compared to this next demon, Beelzebub. Beelzebub. There we go. Got it. So Beelzebub is Lord of the Flies. He's actually quite compared to Baal quite a bit. There's a lot of contradictions when it comes to this mythology, but in mythology he is also another high god just like Baal, but is adopted by the Abrahamic faith. But when they transferred him, he is no longer a god, but a demon, and a very high-ranking demon at that. He wasn't just a straight-up demon, kind of like Baal. Nah, he was actually an angel first and actually fought on the side of Lucifer versus God during the Fallen. He was actually a part of what's called the Seraphim. I think that's how you pronounce it. So a really, really select few angels in heaven that were just above everything else, even besides the archangels. They were really, really up there. Now he is actually one of the 7 princes of hell after he fought with Lucifer against God. So how powerful is Beelzebub? Beelzebub. So how powerful is Beelzebub? He is actually known to be just as powerful or even more powerful than Lucifer himself. So this might be a big badass to come up against if we ever get to Christian mythology. So the last one before we get into weapons coming up next, is Asmodeus. So Asmodeus is actually considered one of the kings of the realms of hell. Never really heard of a king of hell. I thought that was Lucifer, but once again, there's a little bit of contradiction here. So he is also considered the demon of gambling. He is also the demon of lust and also considered a prince as well. Like I said, the contradictions there. A prince and a king. I don't think that really works out. But he also controls 72 legions of demons when it comes to Armageddon. There are a lot of contradictions here. One's a prince, he's a king, he's a lust demon, he's a gambling demon. The dude's got a lot going on. So if we ever get to Christian mythology, I think he's going to be one of the big bosses that we do come up against, being such a high-ranking demon. But now, let's transfer to weapons. So weapons, what can we find in the God of War series that can help us through our campaign? So there are 3, I think at least, that has the best chance of showing up. One is the Holy Grail. So the Holy Grail is considered either a cup, a stone, or a dish. Kind of like caught the blood of Jesus if it was the cup during the crucifixion. Promotes eternal life, happiness, whole bunch of stuff. The big controversy behind the Holy Grail is the way someone pronounces it. So when pronouncing it like Grail, you could actually see it kind of like a cup. But if you pronounce it Grail, it actually means bloodline. You can see this during the movies of the Da Vinci Code, all of this stuff. People actually believed this back in the day, though. This didn't actually come from the movie. This is something that's very contradictory when it comes to Christians and Christianity, because the holy bloodline would be the bloodline of Jesus Christ himself. So some think that Jesus had a family. Very controversial thing, but will we see it? Will it be the actual cup, stone, dish, whatever it might be? Or will we see a bloodline of Jesus in the game of God of War? The next weapon I want to see, or item, whatever you want to call it, is the Spear of Destiny. So the Spear of Destiny, also called the Holy Spear or the Spear of Longigus, is the spear that pierced Jesus' side during his crucifixion. So why is it called the Spear of Longigus, whatever it's called? It's actually the name of the guy who actually stabbed Jesus when he was getting crucified. So what kind of powers does this thing have? So the power of foresight and the power to destroy demons can be found in the Spear of Destiny. So this is a very powerful item, and if we do find ourselves in Christian mythology, we are more than likely going to find this spear. Kind of reminds me of Odin's spear, doesn't it? And the next item or weapon I kind of want to discuss is the Shroud of Turin. So also known as the Holy Shroud, this shroud is considered to be the shroud laid over Jesus' body after he died from crucifixion. So no one knows really what kind of powers this thing has, or if it was really the shroud that covered Jesus. But I don't know if I'm just a big Harry Potter fan and I just keep going back to an invisibility cloak. Maybe, I don't know. We can see what Cory and Santa Monica does if we ever get to Christian mythology. So the last thing I kind of want to talk about is possible storylines. So just a couple of things we might come into, or a couple of things that we might come across during our travels with Kratos. If Atreus is still with us, I hope he is. I love Atreus. If we get to Christian lore. So one of them is Noah in the Ark. So Noah, most of us know this one, especially if you grew up in a Christian household. Noah gets a prophecy, or God talks to him, or whatever it might be, and tells him there's a great flood coming, has to get 2 of each animal onto this gigantic ark that he has to build to save the last bit of good humans left on the world and just flood the earth and kill everything so everyone has to start over. This could be really cool to come across. Like the great flood, kind of like this big swarm of chaos and everything coming on. I think that'd be really cool to check out. And the last thing I kind of want to go over, and this is probably my favorite idea if we do get into Christian mythology, is the 7 layers of hell. So what are the 7 layers of hell? So the 7 layers of hell actually comes from Dante's Inferno. It actually doesn't come from the Bible at all. So many people believe this, that actual 7 layers of hell, that's how well the story is written, from Dante's Inferno. That doesn't come from the Bible, once again. The 7 or 9 if you get into Limbo, and the last one where Lucifer is supposed to reign, that's his layer. So each layer is connected with a sin and a demon that reigns over that layer. So each one, there's lust, gluttony, sloth, pride, etc. I don't know all of them. I have no idea. But that would be a super cool thing to go and play in God of War. So kind of think of the layers of hell kind of like the realms in Norse mythology. Each one could be very, very, well, more than likely they're going to be very different from one another and have different challenges, different demons, different enemies to fight. This could be just an entire game by itself. It would be absolutely amazing to check out. So this is what I'm thinking will happen, or what we will see if God of War gets to Christianity. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, hit the like button because it really does help the video out. Subscribe so you see more videos from me. If you like me, I guess, I don't know. My name is Shayne Static. I'll see you guys next time. Take care.